One way to look at it, well, a British nurse has been actually found guilty. This is just for a horrific crime, the murders of 7 babies at a Northwest England hospital.
Yeah, so disturbing. A Manchester court convicted 33-year-old Lucy Lebet Friday for killing 5 boys and 2 girls while working at the hospital's neonatal unit. She was also convicted of attempting to kill 6 other infants at the facility between 2015 and 2016. Prosecutors say she injected air into the infants' blood and stomachs, and then she overfed them with milk and then poisoned them with insulin and physically assaulted those infants.
This was a cruel, calculated, and cynical campaign of child murder involving the smallest and most vulnerable of children, knowing that your actions were causing significant physical suffering and would cause untold mental suffering. You created situations so that collapses or causes of collapses would not be obvious or associated with you. You removed and retained confidential records of events relating to your crimes and checked up on bereaved parents. There was a deep malevolence bordering on sadism in your actions. During the course of this trial, you have coldly denied any responsibility for your wrongdoing and sought to attribute some fault to others. You have no remorse. There are no mitigating factors. In their totality, the offences of murder and attempted murder were of exceptionally high seriousness, and just punishment, according to law, requires a whole life order.
Hey guys, what's going on? So this British nurse, who was a neonatal nurse, is now going to spend the rest of her life in prison. And they essentially put her under the jail because, you know, England and the European Union doesn't have the death penalty. So essentially, if she dies and they resuscitate her, she still got to do like another 7 life sentences. There is no possibility of any parole. And she is probably one of the more prolific serial killers in British history. Now, this nurse was essentially killing children who were born prematurely, and her job was to take care of them, but she was doing it in such a way where it seemed like these babies were just dying from accidents. But unfortunately for the parents, you know, the hospital didn't catch it quickly enough, and it just was, you know, it's just a horrible situation all around. So just to catch you guys up on what's going on, this nurse who you see on screen started killing these babies in ways that were essentially undetectable. Things like overfeeding, pumping air into their bloodstream, and things of that nature. And when the hospital realized that you had this like huge amount of babies dying from this one particular place, they were like, yo, what's going on? Why do we have so many infants dying in this neonatal unit? This is like so irregular. So they obviously started an investigation, and that investigation found that, like, you know, what's the common theme here? And there was one common theme. She was the nurse that was assigned to all these babies. So she had access to all these children. And, you know, when you got so many babies are starting to die randomly and it seems like there are no connections, then it was kind of like, okay, you know, maybe this is just some horrible accident. They looked into her and they found that she just was this, you know, normal person essentially that didn't really have any of those cues to make you think that she was doing anything harmful to these kids. So after the investigation, they kind of let her go at the first time. They're like, well, listen, you know, these just might be horrible accidents. She seems to be a good nurse, even to the point where the doctors were like, I think it may be her. The doctors were forced to apologize to her and say that they were sorry, but she made one critical error, is that she started injecting some of the children with insulin. So one of the kids that had died, when they did the blood test, they found that they had a high amount of insulin. They were like, well, babies can't, that can't be possible because, you know, that kid couldn't naturally have that much insulin. And that's when all the pieces kind of fell into place. And she essentially got convicted for killing the 7 children and the attempted murder of 6 other children. So here's the timeline of events so you guys can know exactly what happened, because this story is crazy. And again, trigger warning for those of you who, you know, may be sensitive to this issue, but this woman is insane.
In June 2015, after 3 babies died and another collapsed, doctors met with their managers and noted Lucy Letby's presence. 2 more babies would die later that year. Another 4 collapsed. And by early 2016, there had been 3 internal reviews, but none of them came up with an answer. 2 more almost died shortly afterwards. Yet the next month, managers told doctors there was no evidence Lucy Letby was causing any harm. She was moved from night to day shifts, but when 2 more babies died and another 2 collapsed in June, this time consultants demanded a meeting with the hospital board, including the then medical director Ian Harvey and then chief executive Tony Chambers, to raise their concerns.
He was trying to blame you, in other words.
I think so. He didn't say it explicitly then. We discussed having CCTV put onto the unit. We discussed her being supervised one-to-one with somebody watching her all the time. And then we heard that Lucy Letby had been moved to the Risk and Governance Department, so she'd been taken off the unit.
Suddenly, babies stopped collapsing, and the hospital asked the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health to conduct a review of the deaths. In redacted paragraphs we've seen, its report concluded that Lucy Letby was an enthusiastic, capable and committed nurse, that there was nothing about her background that was suspicious, and that concerned doctors had been going with gut feeling. Those doctors were summoned to another meeting with executives who now accused them. In fact, it was the killer who was about to turn complainant. Lucy Letby took out a grievance, with doctors forced to write this apology to her.
Dear Lucy, we would like to apologise for any inappropriate comments that may have been made during this difficult period. We are very sorry for the stress and upset that you have experienced in the last year. Please be reassured that patient safety has been our absolute priority during this difficult time.
She was just 6 days away from returning to the ward before management finally allowed doctors to meet with the police, after yet another review failed to explain all of the deaths.
The very fact that the police, after listening to us for less than 10 minutes, realised that this is something that they had to be involved with, to me speaks volumes. And I could have punched the air.
Do you think the lives of some of those babies could have been saved if management had taken action sooner?
It's a horrible thing to say, but I do genuinely believe that there are 4 or 5 babies who could be going to school now who aren't.
Well, this is obviously a horrible story, and it's fascinating because this woman had, no history. There were absolutely no signs. She had what seemed to be a normal life, and she was able to do this in such a way where, even she wrote a complaint. Hey, they're accusing me of murder, and the doctors got to apologize to her, which is even crazier. But I think, I don't know the laws in England, but if you're in the United States, there would be like a major lawsuit happening. You got one nurse and, like all these babies are collapsing and dying around her and you still put her back to work. Matter of fact, you make the doctors apologize to her. It makes no sense. And the only way that you catch her is, at a point in time, you got to say, well, listen, even if she's not doing anything wrong, maybe she's just bad luck. But, you have this tremendous amount of deaths just going wrong. Maybe this is just not the job for her, right? You got to take her off. But to continue to put her back into place, It's that I think the hospital administration had a lot to, because again, I think there's like 4,000 cases they're now investigating to see if she was involved with any other malfeasance with any other children. So this case isn't even over as of yet. Now, I'm going to say it. I think no matter what you think about the way they found out, this woman is really, really one of the most horrific people to ever walk the earth. And I think life sentence in prison is honestly too kind for someone like this. They are saying that, some of the reports are coming out that she may have had some infatuation with a doctor, and that doctor would only come and see babies who were like in critical condition or whatever. So she would do this so she can have more time with him, But if that's the case, that's even more sick. So, but again, let me know how you feel in the comment section. I'm sorry to bring you a story like this, but, this woman has just been convicted for these horrible, horrible crimes. And hopefully, those families will get some peace knowing that this horrible woman will never do this to any other child again. And, she'll be serving the rest of her natural life. She's in her 20s, so she'll be serving the rest of her natural life in prison. And I think that's even too good for someone like this. But let me know how you feel in the comment section. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you next time. Peace.